Hey everybody, this is Darren Van Dam, and you are watching Flick Connection, the show that usually helps you get more out of movies. But today we're going to be talking about the new Netflix original series, Cowboy Bebop, how it stacks up to the anime original from the late 90s, as well as what people who have never seen or heard of Cowboy Bebop can expect from this new live-action sci-fi series. So, the new live-action Cowboy Bebop series just hit Netflix. It's 10 episodes long. This is essentially a remake of an anime series from the late 90s. So what I'm going to do in this episode is not only review the new show with no spoilers, I'm going to tell you what it has in common with the original, what fans of the original can expect to see, as well as people that have never watched the original and really don't know anything about anime can expect from this new series. So full disclosure, I'm not a big anime guy. I mean, I'm familiar with anime, but I've mostly only seen some of the real hit classics, things like Ghost in the Shell and Akira. But in recent years, I've discovered some other gems like Redline, so I do have kind of an affinity for the genre, but I am in no way an expert, so this video is going to be kind of an explanation for the layperson and what they can expect from a show like this. Now, the trailer for the new series on Netflix looked so good, and I had so many of my viewers telling me to watch the original series, which is also currently available on Netflix, that I burned through most of it leading up to the release of the new series. And I am happy to say they got a lot right with the new series. In fact, the new series is damn near spot on to the original, however, it is not a shot-for-shot remake. For starters, it's much longer. The original episodes were only about 25 minutes each, but they packed a lot of story and a lot of action into that 25 minutes. The new episodes vary a little bit, but they're about 45 to 50 minutes each, so about double the length. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, oh no, they're going to stretch this out. They're going to take one 25-minute show and stretch it out with long scenes of dialogue just to make it fit this hour format that so many viewers have come to expect. So I was on edge a little bit when it started, but I am happy to report that they took that extra time and added more story. In the original series, you mostly spend time with the main character, Spike. I mean, the scenes do go off and tell you what's going on with some of the villains and other characters, but they don't spend a whole lot of time on some of the ancillary characters like Jet Black. However, the new series does delve into what these people are doing, maybe off camera during the original series. As confusing as that is, because the new series is really following the storylines of the original pretty closely. But what was so great about the original anime series was that each episode was different. It was a different story with new characters, and it was really fun and engaging to watch. And they're really repeating that here with the new live action series. However, they did make some adjustments that I think are going to make most audience goers a little more comfortable, meaning the format fits a little more what you're used to. So some of the overarching storylines from the original series, they may not have showed up in every episode. In fact, they didn't. Here, it seems like they are introducing some of the major villains a little bit in almost every episode, and that should feel a little bit more connected and more familiar with most viewers. It is going to be a little bit different for people who are just die-hard fans of the original. But what they really, I think, nailed with this show is the production design. The ships look incredible. Anytime you're out in space, it really looks amazing. It looks like movie quality stuff. I mean, there's a shot in the opening episode where the Bebop ship is landing in some water. It looks incredible, and that was something with the original show. It was anime, it was all hand-drawn, but the scenery was incredible in that show, and the new show managed to capture that and more. They managed to capture really the feel of the show, which is the most important thing to catch in my opinion. And even though there are some changes, they recreated a lot of things pretty closely to the original. For starters, the title sequence uses the same song and is done in the same style, except it's got footage from the show instead of animations. It looks great, and it's a really fun way to kick off every episode. In fact, on a side note, if you watch the first episode, if you're not into it by the time the opening credits start, which is about the 10-minute mark, then maybe this show's not for you, I don't know. They also recreated a lot, and I mean a lot, lot of some of the most iconic shots from the show. There were ones that stood out to me because I had just watched the animated version really recently that I was hoping they were going to do, and then sure enough, as I'm watching the show, they did. But the new series did an amazing job of mixing live action footage with some really beautiful CGI environments, and it looks different from the animated show, obviously, but they really tried to capture a lot of those shots. In fact, just the way this live action version is shot in general is very much like anime. As they introduce a new scene, there'll be these really obscure shots from around the room that are in different angles and places, close-ups of jewelry people are wearing, ceiling fans, puddles on the ground, stuff like that. It looks just like the show, except it is in a real environment for a lot of the show, and it's just incredible. Not only that, the original series was so well known for such a rich environment. It's this intergalactic thing with different planets. There's civilizations on asteroids and different cities, and they all had their different flavor from episode to episode. And the new live action series somehow managed to nail that. So when the main character Spike is walking around New Tijuana, which is what happens in the first episode in both series, it's grungy, there's a lot of detail in the walls and the floor, the characters, and it miraculously managed to look like the show. I actually was reminded a little bit of Sin City. The way that the original Sin City movie matched the original graphic novel was just incredible. It felt different and fresh. I feel like the new Cowboy Bebop managed to capture the essence of the original show in the exact same way. And like I said, it's not a shot-for-shot remake. Some characters are introduced at different times. Some things are out of sequence. But still, they managed to capture the spirit of the show in a way that very few things have, in my opinion. And as far as other changes go, one of the more obvious ones is the way the characters look. I mean, that was the obvious one from the trailer, and honestly, a lot of fans were really upset by some of it, which I am going to touch on. But you've got John Cho, who's most famous from Harold and Kumar. He's doing a great job as Spike Spiegel. In the original Japanese anime, most of the characters, at least the main ones, were really drawn in this way where they look like really tall, lean Caucasians. That was more to do with just the style of the animation as far as I can tell, and the show itself doesn't really have any commentary on race, meaning the race of the characters is pretty irrelevant in this show. The reason me saying that is relevant because Jet Black is a main character. He kind of pilots the ship. He's really the right-hand man to Spike Spiegel, so you see him on screen almost as much as the main character. And in the show, he's played by Mustafa Kashir, who is really dark-skinned compared to the original character, but more importantly, his costume is right, the prosthetic armor is right, the character's right, and his voice sounds a lot like the dubbed version from the original series, meaning he fits the role, I think, really perfectly. And then the one that was not able to escape the controversy was Faye Valentine. Faye is played by Daniela Pineda. I think she is fantastic. And she's not just great in this, she was really great, I think, in Jurassic World. She shared the screen mostly with Jake Johnson, who is a really charismatic actor, and I think she upstaged him in that movie, so I was excited to see her wit come to this role, because to me that was the more important part of the character, that she nailed the wit and the attitude that Faye Valentine has in the show. But fans of the show were upset that she doesn't look like this. 6 foot tall with double D breasts. I mean, maybe they looked, but I'm not surprised they couldn't find anything like that. I honestly think a lot of the outrage over that was probably coming from dorks who have never seen a grown woman naked and don't know that people don't look like this. I will say though, they matched all the costumes and the sets and everything so well, and Faye's costume does not quite look right.
That original costume, they made a couple of them, but like I said, they got sort of slurped up in my various crevices, never to be retrieved again. So we needed to really build something that could withstand the test of time. So just,
And not that I need to see a lot of skin, but they have her really covered up, so I kind of get it a little bit. I mean, her costume does not look anything like the original, not even really in spirit. And Daniela is beautiful, and she doesn't really have a problem at least showing her shoulders or legs, so I'm not quite sure why they went that way with the costume, but it is the mother of all nitpicks for people to make because the show is good and she's good in it. I mean, more often than not, studios will end up picking someone who looks identical for the role, but they're not necessarily the right actor to play the role, and I think they made the right choice with the main 3 actors that they picked on the show. And I've kind of already touched on this, but the show looks amazing. I was kind of worried it would look a little bit half-assed and cheap just because there is such an amazing rich world from the original show. I knew it was going to be expensive to bring that to screen, and I thought they might do it halfway, and I'm happy to say the show looks incredible. And if you're still not sold on it, I'll make some other comparisons. I would say this has a lot in common with Guardians of the Galaxy for people who are not familiar with anime, meaning if you like that, I think you will like this. It has a very similar vibe where it's fun and colorful and really witty, but it does go to darker places at times. It doesn't have this overarching darkness to it. In fact, most of it is pretty fun, but it's bloody when it needs to be bloody. The villains are really pretty twisted at times, and in episode 3 they do spend quite a bit of time in a brothel, so there's a fair amount of nudity as well, yet it's not packed into every episode, and the show's not overly violent or gory or anything like that, but you will see bullet wounds when they occur. It's got a vintage TV show vibe to it that carries over from the original show. The Mandalorian kind of had that too. So there's a lot in common with the two, and I think fans of The Mandalorian will really dig this one. Just keep in mind, there's some mature rated stuff in there, so this is not really a family-friendly show, even though it looks like one for most of it. I also really liked season 1 of Altered Carbon on Netflix, and Cowboy Bebop has a lot in common with that, except it's more fun, and I think there's more sets as well. Altered Carbon had some of the most amazing sets on a Netflix series, but they only had like 5 or 6 of them. Every episode of Cowboy Bebop, with the exception of their ship, which is really well designed by the way, is in a different location, and they all look really great. And some shows are dark through and through, others are really light and fun, but I cannot think of a show that balances the two better than Cowboy Bebop. I mean, I haven't tried that hard, but it feels really fresh, and it has a really nice balance that's different from a lot of what else is on right now, which I really appreciate because so much of what's coming out is just the same old thing getting reproduced. It's a lot of studios trying to recapture success from hit shows. They're basically doing that here, but I think they nailed it more than a remake show maybe ever has. I don't know. If there's a better remake series, let me know in the comments below, but I think most of you are gonna come up empty-handed with that one. Like all shows, Cowboy Bebop does have its low points where it drags a little bit, but those moments to me were much fewer and far between than they typically are, not just with Netflix shows, but just shows in general. And then I'll wrap up with one of the coolest things about the new show is I feel like it's really accessible. I feel like most people watching this video will watch the new show and really enjoy it. And my suggestion is that if you do enjoy it, take a look at the anime series. It's really fantastic. You do not have to be into anime to follow it at all. You are gonna kind of have some of the storylines spoiled for you, but again, the visuals are so incredible. I really enjoy seeing both sides of that coin, where you get the live action and the animated. So if you're into it as much as I have been, definitely check out both. You should have plenty to watch over the next couple of weeks, but don't forget to keep watching me. If there's any other anime series you would like to recommend to my audience, let us all know in the comments below, but do recommendations for people who do not typically watch anime, meaning ones that are a good place to start. While you're down there in those comments, also help me thank the Patreon supporters. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter and seeing your name here at the end of every video, there's a link in the video description below. But I will keep making these videos as long as you keep watching them. Thanks for checking out this special Cowboy Bebop episode, and you will see me on the next one.